Bow our head.
We will by the time we get done.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for this time of fellowship. Lord, we ask that you guide us in everything. Lord, please use us as a vessel and impart your wisdom, impart your patience, impart your kindness, Lord. And always let us remember about love. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, Shelley, let's do a roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Denise Taylor.
Here.
Keith Austin.
Here.
Bill England.
Aye.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Joe Burks.
Aye.
Sean Crittenden. Mike Dobbins. Frankie Hargis. Present. Wanda Hatfield. Rex Jordan.
Here.
Dick Lay.
Aye.
Mike Shambaugh. Mary Bakershaw.
Present.
Theo Smith.
Here.
Victoria Vasquez. David Walkenstick. Ryan Warner.
Aye.
We do have a quorum.
Awesome. Okay, I need approval of November's minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All righty, brings us down to the CMB report, and we are blessed to have Chuck Garrett here today.
Good morning. I'm here to substitute for Mr. Slayton, who's under the weather, and hopefully he'll be recovering soon. I was here last night to report on September, and as I mentioned last night, we had a very, very strong September across the board. C&E's revenues and their bottom line, their EBITDA, were all up over budget and year over year. Same thing was true with CMB consolidated numbers. So very strong financial performance. We have a lot of projects going on right now, many of which you all are fully aware of. One being here in our backyard in Tahlequah, the design and of the new casino that will be at Cherokee Springs Plaza. We met yesterday, in fact, with the architects and the design team to continue going over the exterior as well as the floor plans, making sure that it incorporates everything that we think the public will want, including a pretty significant convention and entertainment area where local groups and Cherokee Nation programs can hold their meetings. The conference area will be very similar, almost exactly like the Hard Rock. So it'll be a big, significant room that can be quartered with movable walls, and then there'll be 4 breakout rooms, 2 of which can be combined, so to accommodate different size groups. We think that'll be something that we wouldn't do normally at a Grove, for example, but given that we're here at the Cherokee Capitol and have a lot of different groups that both community groups but also Cherokee Nation groups, we wanted to accommodate that. There'll be a restaurant on the south end of the casino, and it will be scheduled right now to be very much like the West Siloam Steakhouse. And then there'll be the River City Cafe, so there'll be another little more casual area. So we're very excited about the facility. It looks great and will fit well within the whole Cherokee Springs development. Speaking of Cherokee Springs development, the other retail area, the area between, say, Buffalo Wild Wings and Taco Bueno and the casino, that area we have some additional plans for. We're negotiating with some national tenants right now. We're subject to some confidentiality agreements, so I can't go into naming names, but there'll be names you recognize, and I think services and that the community will respond to very well. So we're excited about that. The road work, the road expansion that you're seeing right now along the highway, I mentioned last night we've been coordinating with the city and the superintendent of schools, so that we can minimize the impact and the hassle factor for the community. But ultimately, it will provide a lot smoother turning opportunities there, deceleration lane, acceleration lane, and some protected turns. So that'll be a strong improvement safety-wise and just traffic flow-wise. Other projects, we're looking, at the Hard Rock, we're continuously looking for ways to improve that facility and to meet market demand. And we're undergoing right now a review of some of the opportunities there to remain the strongest player in town. And we've got some interesting ideas. We'll get them nailed down and share them when we have a little bit more specifics. Other than that, I'd be happy to address any questions you have or any other topics you'd like to discuss this morning.
Baker Shaw?
Hi, Sean.
Good morning.
Sean, yesterday I found out we've got thousands of patients in contract on a wait list in contract. Is there any way you can see increasing our dividend to help these citizens? I want to get them off. I want to get them off the waiting list. I want to get them the medical care they deserve. And to do that, we need money. Is there any way you all can increase our dividend?
Well, I for one thing, I guarantee that we share your sentiment about people getting health care. I mean, that's very clear. We, the administration, the legislative branch, we work for you guys. And so that's really up to you all. And, so I would just say that we share your values, but really that's not our decision to make.
Can you explain to me who makes those decisions?
My understanding, and I'm certainly not a scholar of Cherokee law and constitutions, but my understanding that would be this body or the administration that would make those decisions. You're the shareholder. We work for you all, and our job is to maximize the return and put Cherokee citizens to work, and that's what we do. Try to do every day.
Okay, I want to investigate that because I do want more money available for the the citizens on contract who need the health care. Thank you for sharing that.
You're quite welcome.
Anybody else?
Any plans, I heard once that we had the plans for a motel as well.
In Tahlequah. That's be phase 2. Where phase 1 will be the conference center, the casino. There is a private developer that we've leased ground to for potential hotel development there, which we're excited about because of the other demands that it will generate. But we will, look at demand, and it is designed. We're designing it now with a phase 2 in mind. Yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Lake?
And thank you to follow up on Joe's question, Chuck, on what's the timing? Not only of Tahlequah, but your Hard Rock
Right.
upgrade or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm. Next spring, we'll start construction on the Tahlequah Casino. The design, we don't have construction documents yet. We're really still in the schematic and floor plan stage. But next spring, you'll start to see construction. And I would think that towards the first of 2018, you'll start to see a finished product. In terms of Hard Rock,
The finished product?
2019. Yeah, sorry. The Hard Rock will be probably 6 months following that. I mean, we haven't really nailed down all of the particulars there, but my guess would be sort of 3 to 6 months following the Tahlequah project.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
ahead,
Thank you,
Councilman.
Madam Chair. Chuck, at Hard Rock, will it be part of the sprung area?
Yes. Yeah, that, we've gotten our money's worth out of the sprung, as you all well know. So the idea would be to replace that with a permanent structure that had some expanded offerings, you know, with maybe larger dance floor, that sort of thing that really we see that our patrons really are, you know, using and liking, and we think that's a competitive advantage.
And I think that'll help us against Margaritaville too.
Right.
Doing that, and that's a good prime area. So.
Right, exactly.
Thanks, Chuck.
You're welcome.
Yeah, oh, Harley.
Yeah, Chuck, I know it's been a while since Cherokee Nation Business has acquired new businesses. I know the 8A program has worked really well, and I know we have several of those programs. Eventually, those are going to not be here. So where are we on acquiring new businesses? I'm talking like the businesses we have at Redstone, talking about the one in Colorado, those businesses like that. I know we haven't purchased any or haven't heard any talk about. Are we still pursuing those outside entrances? I know what we're doing is fine and dandy here, but I'd like to see more just to diversify like we did before. So I haven't heard any talk about buying any new businesses out.
Yeah.
Are we still looking at this doing?
Well, in fact, I can share with you that we are in discussion right
Okay,
now with
good.
some different opportunities. It's important to continue to grow organically, but also to explore growth through acquisition.
Yes.
And some of the technology businesses that we think there are some real growth opportunities for, both serving the government but also in the commercial space. So very much in on the look and in discussion.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilor Lake.
Thank you. The sprung area, if you're going someplace, send it my way, Chuck. I got plenty of room for it.
Yeah, no, it is done well. I think it's been there over 20 years or right around there. So for something that was supposed to be temporary.
Well, I was going to say Pryor and Bonita get everything, so I'd like to.
Osaleda feeling a little left out.
Anything else? All right, Chuck. Keep on
All
keeping
righty.
on.
Thank you guys very much. We'd like to wish you all and your families a very Merry Christmas too.
You too, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right, Lacey, you're up.
Merry Christmas. I wore my stretchy pants today.
We're going to feed you.
Excited for your dinner. So, earlier this month, on December the 4th, I participated in a Treasury listening session for tribes. Tribes were completely left out of the both the House and the Senate tax reform bills, which is very disappointing because we have a lot of asks, we have a lot of fixes, and we do everything that we do as far as economic development goes. We do that with our hands tied behind our back because we're dealing with an archaic tax code that does not afford us the same parity that states have. And we are actively working as a TTAC, an unseated TTAC, the Treasury Tribal Advisory Committee. There's 6 of us. We're pushing for our 7th appointment, who is sitting in the backlog of the Office of Personnel Management trying to get their federal tax and background check. I went through that same federal tax and background check, and it took me about 9 months to go through that long process. So we're waiting on that 7th member, but we're taking action in advance. And so one thing that we did was we helped push Treasury to host a listening session so that they could hear the concerns of tribes during this opportune time and know that tax reform is very important to Indian country. We need this desperately. And so they asked me to speak on the issue of dual taxation. And so Dual taxation is where state and local governments try to collect the taxes that would be due the Indian tribe. And, most notably, the case that's made the courts is the Citizen Potawatomi and their grocery store. So I'm pretty sure most of you all are familiar with that and how the city of Shawnee is actively trying to tax the sales within their grocery store. It's obviously a tribal-only development. It's on their own land, and the city of Shawnee has no authority to do that. In our instance, we look at lost sales tax. So, because it's on tribal land, why could we not be taxing Taco Bueno sales? Why could we not be taxing mixed jewelry sales? And I know mixed jewelry isn't there anymore, but, those are lost sales tax revenues to the tribes. And so looking at that, from the perspective of the federal government, if we were able to have that first dollar, then the state and local and the federal governments can have the next 5. Because, we get that first sales tax, then there's going to be increased employment, there's going to be more income tax coming into the state and federal coffers, there's going to be ad valorem, there's going to be sales taxes, so when tribes are able to invest in economic activities on our lands, it makes life better for everybody. And so we talked about that. We also talked about permanently extending the Indian Employment Tax Credit and accelerated depreciation. We talked about new market tax credits and needing a tribal set-aside in that program. I know that CNB had previously participated in that program and hasn't for a couple of years now, but it was a great program, and if it had some restraints and some regulatory burdens removed around it, it could be an even better program. So we're fighting for that. We're also looking at capital infusions into Indian country and how we can bond with parity with state and local, with state governments, because they can bond and it doesn't have to be for an essential government function. Whereas if you want to bond as a tribe, it has to be, in our instance, last time we bonded was for the Muskogee Clinic. But we can't pass a bond in order to build a casino, or we can't pass a bond if it's for an economic development enterprise. It has to be something that has an essential, quote, government function. So just had some really good feedback from that. I can't say that anything is necessarily going to change within those House and Senate bills, but we will continue to pursue administrative fixes that the administration may be able to help us out on, and continue to pursue solutions through Treasury. In addition, we have fiscal year 17 year-end close. We're continuing that, and we have our external auditors coming on site very soon, and we have our internal auditors closing out their work too. So we're closing out one auditor and bringing in a new one. So with that said, I'll be happy to take any questions that you all have.
Do you think that's going to happen where we won't have to, the sales tax will go to the tribe? What are the odds of that?
I do understand that there is work being administration, and that these that show they're very supportive to removing that that barrier, because basically all it is it's clarity in law or regulation. It can be done a number of ways. It can be done through the tax reform. It can be done by the BIA revising the Indian Trader regulations. There's a few ways to do it, and so I think it just needs to be shown from more of a quantitative perspective, and there are individuals who are actively trying to do that in the administration right now. So they seemed pretty receptive to it, and they when we spoke about this issue, we got the response back that people were pretty shocked that this even exists. But the more money that we spend fighting state and local governments is more money that we have to spend on lawsuits, less money that we're spending on our people, and the same is said for the states. So it needs to be a solution where everybody can win.
Councilor Lake?
That suspiciously sounds like compacting to me, and is that where we're headed?
It's actually the anti-compact.
Well,
So it means that we don't have to.
I don't understand. Okay, go ahead and explain.
It means that the lines are bright, and we don't have to compact as far as the sales tax goes, or economic activity on our land taxing the activity goes. And as far as non-Indian businesses go as well. So for example, for those non-Indian businesses that operate on our lands, like the Taco Bueno, it gives them the shelter that they need from the state or from the federal government that says that we paid those taxes to the Indian tribe.
I'm glad to hear it. Compacting is not a road I'd like to continue down.
No, this is not.
Thank you.
Counselor Buzzard.
So, Lacey, and I've kind of watched the citizen van in Potawatomi. So where is that now? Is it in the court as far as them collecting taxes from the grocery store on their property?
As far as I understand, they're collecting those taxes.
So the city is not collecting any of that now?
And again, I do not know the outcome of that, and I'm not an attorney, and I will admit I can't tell a legal story to save my life.
I know,
So.
but they had a big thing about it on the water system out there. See, the
Yes.
Potawatomi have their own water system out there too. So that'd be something to watch. How comes Rocky Berry has done some things down there that a lot of tribes haven't undertaken yet, so he's a pretty aggressive type of a leader there. Okay, thank you, sir.
And I think some of our other governments, local, state, and federal, forget how much we do, like the water.
Yeah.
You know, how much we do. They look at how much we get, but they forget how much we give. And so I appreciate you beating that drum, reminding them that giving up $1 here likely brings 5 more into the local coffers. Did you have a
Yeah, they're in Shawnee. I think they have led the way. You know, they've got their own shopping center, they've got their grocery store and bank, and they've just asserted their sovereignty without a compact. And they may be the only example that I know of in Oklahoma, and they've been very successful. So we could take that model and not have to, try to reinvent the wheel. I was just thinking, that have we had any conversation with our city officials here in Tahlequah on our development there south of town?
That I don't know. I'm not involved in that development at all.
You probably need to, because you're about as knowledgeable as anybody I've talked to.
Well, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
If I was invited to that conversation, I would love to share what I know. And my experience is from visiting with tribes all across this state, as well as states, or as far as tribes outside the state of Oklahoma. This is the #1 issue that's keeping economic development projects off the table for tribes, is because it's just not worth going to battle over it.
That's good report. I mean, appreciate this tax. I was wondering if we ever even looked into it, if they're successful, and so far they are. I don't think they've been to court yet, because it's their sovereign right. Thank you.
walking stick?
Hey Lacey, speaking of taxing, the development that's going in, this may be a Chuck Garrett question, but the development that's going on south of town with the casino, everything's going up at, was there, did we annex some of our property to the city of Tahlequah for taxation or?
Yeah. The city annexed, I don't know exactly how many more feet it was, but it's to the Seven Clans Road, which is sort of the road running north and south in the middle. The proposed retail area would be, Tahlequah would be a beneficiary of sales tax. And that was part of the give and take with the city of Tahlequah and being a good partner with them to let them also have revenue generated from sales.
So, like Taco Bueno, Sonic, and all those different areas, those businesses are having to pay sales tax to the city of Tahlequah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. And then the other future developments that's going to go on there, we'll be paying sales tax as well.
That's right.
Now, what about the hotel?
The privately developed hotel will pay city hotel tax and sales tax. Of course, anything on trust land, casino that is in our phase 2 hotel would not pay city.
So we're going to have 2 hotels over there. We'll have a
In the
privately
end,
owned,
that's what we expect.
and then a tribal
Yes.
Cherokee hotel. Okay.
What does privately developed mean? Does that mean it's independent of the tribe?
Yes, we lease the ground to a private developer who intends to construct a hotel.
Do we by any chance know who the developer would be?
We do. Yeah, we've entered into a ground lease with them.
And may I ask who that is?
It's Pete Patel, Promise Hotels.
Tell.
Yeah, they just announced this morning, matter of fact, along with Ross Construction, which is a Cherokee-owned business, in Tulsa, downtown, a development of a new Holiday Inn Express. They own the Holiday Inn Express here. They're very accomplished hoteliers, and we're pleased to have them as part of the development.
One last question. Do we own the right-of-way to the Puerto Catusa, the water there?
I am not aware of, I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to get back to you on that, and maybe others around the table that know, but I do not.
I do know that when I campaigned, there was a candidate who felt strongly that that belonged to the Cherokees and that we should take it over. And so I wanted to ask, just to be sure, it's something that might be worthwhile, that we may be losing the opportunity there to collect revenue.
I think I'll reach out to the AG's office and our own counsel's office.
Counselor Walkenstick.
Chuck, also, last month, I visited with Sean Slayton and Doug Evans. I'm trying to wrap my head around this because, Doug tried to explain it to me for a long period of time, but the $4.4 million that we paid to the Gaming Commission and the Marshal Service from CMB, he was explaining to it like the auditors, the BKD said that the since we can't be paying the Gaming Commission because they hold us in compliance as far as CMB. So he said that, well, we had to give the $4.4 million as a grant to the Cherokee Nation, so the Cherokee Nation would be paying the Gaming Commission. But he was explaining to me how he turned into a net income, and they was able to generate employee bonuses off the 4.4. So my question is if that's an operating expense, how does that turn into net income?
Well, I think there's a lot of, you have to unpack what you just said.
Okay.
Because I think there's not all of that is factually accurate.
Okay. Go ahead and explain to us.
I wonder about the legality of discussing the financial workings of CMB in an open meeting. Do you have anything to say about that, Talina? The documents that we get that are the financial documents for CNB are marked confidential.
Well, if they're marked confidential, then I would recommend not discussing that. I hadn't seen those documents.
Point of
If we're
Chuck, would
talking
you-
about the content of the documents, I would recommend not to discuss that.
Chuck, would you mind maybe just off the record going and
Oh,
explaining
absolutely.
with
Of course,
Counselor here?
be happy to do that.
It was in our book last month about the 4.4 million.
Our book is marked confidential.
It wasn't contributions though. It was in the reports. It was our financial report from CMB.
And I think that is marked confidential because it is not in this book. It's in a separate book.
Okay, I guess.
More than happy to stick around or
Yeah.
meet another time, whatever you like.
Well, let's do it after this. I want clarification.
No problem.
Make him buy you lunch, Chuck.
And Chuck, it's on me today.
I'm a cheap date, so.
All right. Any other questions for Lacey or Chuck while he's here? Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, just a minute. You're not getting off that easy.
And it flew by me a while ago. Is Ross Construction owned by you guys?
No, it's not owned by us. That is a Cherokee-owned business. Mr. Ross is a Cherokee
Okay,
business.
I misunderstood. Thank you.
Okay. That brings us down to Diane Kelly.
I'll be short because I know you guys want to eat. I just wanted to share with you when you were talking about economic development. there are 2 people that have graduated from OU's Economic Development Institute. One's Andy McMillan, who works for Chuck. The other one's Anna Knight in Commerce. And in another week, I get my diploma. So I just wanted to share that with you. I've got 3 other people that are going and working on theirs. One is Brenda Fitzgerald. The other is Hunter Palmer, sitting back there in the back, and Travis Gully. So we've got several people that are working in that arena. And I know that there's a lot of times you guys don't know that we're working with CNB, but a lot of times there's somebody out there that we're working with. And I know Johnny Arp up in Jay told us about somebody that was working with Walmart and had a contract to do a project, but they didn't have the people to do it. And so he said, can you come over and work with us so we can get it at Jay? When I met with him, Chuck couldn't get down there, and I said, I really think C&I over in Stillwell could do this because they're already equipped to do it. We wouldn't have to hire anybody. So anyway, he sent his team up there, and I guess you guys got the project, right? So that'll open the door for some other projects that they're doing for Walmart. So just wanted to share that with you. Sometimes these connections that we make out here pan off, and we've got some other things. I know Tammy McEwen at Grand Gateway, she calls occasionally, and we get our contacts from some of the banks. I know Anna gets the contacts, or I get the contacts. We collaborate on a lot of things that are going on. And if it weren't for some of the grant writers that we have here at the Cherokee Nation, some of these small towns couldn't function and do some of the things that they do because we've got the expertise here at the Cherokee Nation. And I have to share this with you. Kim Carroll just gave me a report late yesterday, and we have seen close to 82,000 people in all of our offices in career services. And I just had to share that with you because my staff have really been working hard this past year, and we have performed over 30-something job fairs this past year. When if you look at past reports, there might have been 4 or 5, but Hunter and his team are getting ready to kick off a bunch of diversified job fairs out there in the 14 counties after the first of the year. So we're real excited. So we're playing our part as far as economic development, and one of our companies that we worked very hard and heavy for the last 2 years with, Chuck, Andy, all of us were a partner in it. They're having their ribbon cutting in downtown Tulsa next week. It's called Ingredion, and that's the company that we told you that had the Fortune 500 companies, and it's their administrative finance offices that they're putting in downtown Tulsa. So we're real excited about that. That's one that came to fruition. Any questions?
Any questions for Diane?
Diane, you're doing a good job.
Thank you. I have good people working for me. I don't do it. I just crack the whip.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right, Anna. Bless your heart. You're always following Diane.
I know, because it's not fast to follow.
But I see good things about you
Today.
I thought that it must be the Christmas spirit coming out.
So you do have a copy of my report. I just want to highlight just a couple of things. One of them is the amount of loans we continue to work. The very first page of the report is just commercial lending. So last year we did $2.7 million in commercial lending. And this year, it's not the end of December, and we're already at $750,000. And so there's great demand out there for small businesses to expand and to stabilize themselves. And we do have some grants coming in, but one of the things that we've done, and I think I've mentioned it before, is we've started reducing the amount of money that we'll give them, and we try to partner with banks a lot now, so that way we can try to leverage our money. But depending on the timing of the grants and the continuation of the grants, if the CDFI grant goes away, which is a grant we regularly get, then we will be in a situation where we'll probably have much more demand than we have funding for. So just a heads up on that one. We're also going to be looking at working with some community groups, minority. It's USDA Socially Disadvantaged Groups grant, which we were actually called by USDA and asked to apply for this because the state of Oklahoma's never gotten it. And so they felt like we could probably write a successful application, and we did, and now we got to figure out how we're going to No, we don't have to figure it out, but we're going to be looking for community groups that are minority boards. They have a minority board that we can provide leadership training to. We have some money to do some feasibility study for some projects. Like the Southeast Artist Association is looking at a feasibility study on their online website. So if you have some groups, some different groups in your community that are made up of a majority of minority, which would include women, of course, Cherokees, please send them over our way so we can make that connection and try to see what we can do to help them with that. And the last thing I'll mention is before the chair lady does is that the C&B procurement numbers are still not, we're still working on those. And now we're actually, I'm working with Doug.
Okay.
And we're working directly with Doug, and we're trying to work out a system and trying to figure out, there's been some differences in how, in the amount of procurement dollars that have gone to tarot vendors. And so he's looking into, has a financial analyst looking into it to be able to try to explain what some of those differences are going to be. And so I'm hopeful that even if it's not in the written report, we'll have a verbal report at the next Executive Finance Committee and update you on that. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
On that minority group thing, what's that program called?
It's a socially disadvantaged, it's socially disadvantaged groups is what it's basically called. Technical assistance for socially disadvantaged groups. And that it's typically been used with USDA and other states for co-ops. And we wrote it to work with Cherokee community groups is basically what we wrote it for.
Anybody else? Counselor Lay?
Thank you. The payroll report that you just mentioned, what are you looking for that to show us again?
Well,
Total dollar amounts or?
we look at the total dollar amounts that procurement opportunities that are, we call them tarot eligible opportunities. So it's an opportunity in which we have a tarot vendor that is eligible to bid on that opportunity. At CMB, one of the issues is that they do not, a lot of tarot vendors don't vote or bid on their opportunities. But that's how we come up with that total dollar figure. And then we look at the total dollar figure awarded to tarot vendors. And so we come up with a percentage on that, and then in the report, we also give you the total dollar amount. So the total dollar eligible for, and right now we don't have C&B in the report, or excuse me, C&E. We had 3.3, almost 3.4 million of eligible procurement opportunities, and 3.2 were given to tarot vendors.
What describe eligible to?
It means that there's a tarot vendor that's certified and eligible to bid on that opportunities.
Would eligible mean can they float the bond?
No.
Okay.
It just means that we have a tarot vendor that provides that good or
There
service.
are some jobs our people can't float the bond.
On the, yes, on the construction, there
So I would
certainly
like
are.
to, hopefully that will be not part of the eligibility.
We do include the construction in it, but there's not as much construction as there's been in the past. And we can, we can look at that. We can look at taking that out. I think from my conversation with Doug earlier, well, I guess it was just yesterday, he had mentioned that there was some tobacco wholesaler that was a tarot vendor that maybe now is no longer a tarot vendor that's impacting the numbers. Sometimes the construction impacts the numbers. A year ago, October of 2016, their number was 70%. And because of different vendors not recertifying or them finding better value for their money with other vendors, it's that number has been steadily decreasing since then. So at some point you have to look at, do you want them to procure from tarot vendors and give them a pricing advantage as the government does, or do you want them to increase their net income and go for the for the best value for their money. So that's a decision that administration and CMB need to make together. Did that answer?
So we're
your
losing payroll vendors because they can't get the jobs, it appears to me sometimes.
They're-
They know they can't get the jobs.
Sometimes they cannot get the jobs. A lot of times in regards to CMB, they are not bidding on them. And CMB follows the same posting rules that the rest of us follow, where they post all their opportunities over $5,000 on the CherokeeBids.org website. And so some of the issues that we've talked about with Doug is our better marketing of the opportunities as they come out. Here at the government, we try to, of course, we don't have the same kind of volume, but we try to reach out to the tarot vendors if we need to in order to get them to bid. They have a much higher volume of purchasing than we do. So there's some different things that we can look at to try to better market those opportunities. In our Small Business Assistance Center, we also help tarot vendors try to prepare competitive bids. And on the CherokeeBids.org site, not in every case, but in the majority of the cases, the procurement departments go back in and tell what the winning bid was, which gives the tarot vendors an opportunity to try to see where they were off and how they can compete more effectively in the bidding process.
Is that for government side or CMB side or both?
All sides. Mm-hmm.
Not sure everybody knows that. That's good to know.
We do a lot of training on this. We don't do as much training throughout the year as we used to because the attendance has dropped. But when we hold the small business vendor fair in conjunction with the Tarot Awards banquet, we do a lot of training at that particular point. And we've been working with Diane's shop in completing a welcome packet for new tarot vendors. I'm not sure if Diane is still, if they are still doing it or not, but they were contacting vendors that weren't renewing, trying to find out why they're not renewing to try. And the number of tarot vendors has increased substantially over the last several years, over the last 5 or 6 years. So there are a lot more tarot vendors registered than there used to be.
When it's 5,000 and under, what's the criteria again? You don't go through tarot?
No, you do not have to post it on the CherokeeBids.org site. At the government, we basically, our procurement department provides those opportunities to tarot vendors if a tarot vendor is eligible. It doesn't mean they still don't get bids, but they only check with the tarot vendors. It doesn't go on the website. At CMB, I'm not sure exactly how they handle that, bids under 5,000. But they do not post them on the website.
So are those sole sourced or?
No, they're not sole source.
I'm looking at
Oh.
Chuck for.
Not necessarily. I mean, it really depends on the type of service. If there are multiple providers, we will bid it out. If there is, a company that specializes in red screws and we're buying red screws, it may be more feasible and quicker just to go directly to that vendor. But typically, it's a bid process.
We waived sovereignty on a $3,500 business deal for CNB this year, I think. To me, that didn't make much sense. You guys are worth a lot more than $3,500.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. And when those things happen for that kind of money, could you possibly find another vendor so that it doesn't come before, it has to come before this body to be passed on? So.
I'm not familiar with the circumstances there, but I can assure you that is not a decision that's made lightly to bring that to you. If there was an alternative, I'm sure that we would have pursued that.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, we did waive sovereign immunity on a 2,500 one on the government side.
On the government side too, yep.
Yeah, I think it had to do with the IT renewal.
Yep.
Yeah, something with software. Yeah, because I remember we had a
That
lengthy
was one of them.
That was
Yeah.
it. I don't remember one on CMB, but I do remember on the government side. But anyway, that's a lot to waive for a minimum amount there.
Councilor
All right.
Vasquez.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we're back on that technical assistance for the socially disadvantaged groups. Where would the training that you talk about, where would it be held or conducted? At their site or at our site?
It depends on exactly what the training is, but quite a bit of it will be one-on-one with the community group on their site.
Okay, and would it be, is there any limit to the number of people that can participate?
No, there's not.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I always appreciate your group, Anna, because it's all about helping Cherokees better themselves, and you give them the tools to go be independent. And so I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
All righty, moving down to the consent items. We've talked about tarot. You got a list in your book. Good to go?
Good.
Okay.
And I would just like to note that as we do contact, we're trying to find out why they're not renewed.
Okay.
We are still working on that.
I move to approve the tarot.
Got a motion and a second on the tarot vendors. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, you got a new community assistance sheet. Gail handed it out. Take a look over it. Be sure you got everything on there.
To it for Councilman $100, Christmas organizational support, Brushy Cherokee Community Action Association, $500 for organizational support, and Marble City Community Organization, $500 for organizational support.
Okay, I believe Councilor Austin has something as well.
Yes, I'd like to add $1,500 for the Chamber of Commerce of Chelsea for their yearly banquet and for teacher appreciation banquet.
And what was that, the organization?
Chamber of Commerce Chelsea.
Anybody else have anything they need to add? Councilor Hargis, you good? Got a motion to approve. Can I have a second? Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Okay, brings us down to roads. You got a, oh, I just marked it up. Law enforcement, okay, you did get a new sheet on that as well. So look over that.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve law enforcement. All, second, please.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, now brings us to roads. They're in your book. If you have anything that needs to be added, let's do it. Frankie?
Motion to approve.
See? Second, sorry. Got a motion and a second on the roads. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, looks like there's quite a few sports teams that have been added. Motion to approve.
Second.
And I have a second. Motion and a second on sports teams. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Couple of additions on the livestock. I need a motion for those.
Second.
Need a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Brings us down to new business. Councilor Austin, would you introduce that?
Certainly. This is an act amending Legislative Act 26-17, authorizing the comprehensive operating budget for fiscal year 2018, Mod 4, and declaring an emergency, and I move for its approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on the act, the budget mod. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Jody, could you give us an overview of what we did here? I'm not sure.
Let me go through
Yeah.
each one of them, okay. The first one is a cash match for grants It's a modification requesting an increase in the transfer out of $50,984 to the ICDBG retail incubator that's in item 3. The offset is a reduction of the appropriated for cash match account. And I made a note there, there's summaries in section A on the appropriated for cash match. There's $641,000 remaining in the cash match for future grants available for the rest of the year. Item two.
That's the balance of that cash.
That's the
money.
balance
Okay.
that's available for future grants.
Okay.
Item 2, rural business development grant, under USDA. It's a new budget requesting expenditure authorization of $671,473. That includes a $500,000 transfer to the RBDG loan fund in item 4. And anytime, just kind of as a note, when there's a grant, they still have to go into the mod, because if there's a transfer, you guys have to approve the actual transfer. That's the reason why sometimes there's grant funds.
That RBB loan fund, now what?
That's the rural business development grant.
Okay.
Item 3, ICDBG retail incubator. It's under HUD. It's modification requesting a net increase in expenditure authorization of $48,380. The funding is provided by $50,984 transfer in from cash match, and reconcile grant carryover reduced by $2,604. Item 4 is the rural business development grant. It's under the enterprise fund. It's a new budget requesting an expenditure authorization of $525,100, and it's provided by that $500,000 transfer in and $25,100 in interest and loan fee income. Item 5 is the ICDBG loan fund. Modification requesting a decrease in expenditure authorization of $18,687 due to the reduced transfer in from the retail incubator in item 3. So there's all kind of these loan funds and grants and stuff, kind of a lot of transfers in between them to get them all balanced out.
Thanks, that's good to know about the,
Because on the grants, the grants for the loans, they get transferred out actual to the loan funds to account for them. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve that. If there are no more questions, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, down to announcements. The next meeting is actually January 20. Oh, Councilor Dobbins?
Yes, just want to let the entire council know the study group within the health committee continues its work. I feel like we're making some positive strides. We've had conversations and meetings with the health administration. I may note that they are embracing our effort and want to join in it. So certainly at the next entire council will have an update, and we look forward to input from all 17 of us.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, I do want to note that in our book, the announcement says our next meeting is January 15th. That's actually the 25th at 3. And then if all of our staff would come up here, speaker. Shelley, gotta get up. Yeah, you're in trouble.
Every year, we take up a contribution from each council member, and for our staff here, because of all the, as you come to committee meetings, you see that we're pretty well organized. Well, this group is not. This group is. I mean, they keep us in compliance, they keep us, you know, in just in compliance all the time. We appreciate everything they do, so this is just a small gesture of what council members appreciate. We'll get up here, Denise, you help me. How they organize this. Okay, first, Talina.
Talina, we appreciate you.
Shelley.
Shelley. Thank you.
Got Carla.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Got Teddy. Gail. Where's Gail? There she is. Jody.
And Jody. We appreciate you guys so much.
Back up, Joe. You're hiding from Lena.
Thank you very much. Okay, now you go back to your duties. Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Everybody get your aprons on and,
Attitude. Have a good attitude.
a good attitude, that's right. Appreciate you guys. Merry Christmas.